The following video will cover the basic techniques required to successfully install MDC's LiquaPearl. LiquaPearl's unique blend of color and pearlescent shimmer creates a finish with one-of-a-kind sparkle and unbeatable durability. A great choice for architectural features and accents, or any highly visible space in need of a show-stopping finish. Being that pearlescent coatings reflect light and will show all imperfections, a level 5 finish is specified when going over drywall. Other surfaces should be made as smooth as possible. LiquaPearl Rolled requires a tinted primer. LiquaPearl Sprayed requires a white primer. LiquaPearl is a 2-coat application, and each coat is 2 steps: rolling the pearlescent paint and then back rolling. There are 2 roller setups, one with a standard roller cover and the second with a Worcester polar bear. For this video, we are using a 1/2-inch standard roller cover for the first step of the application. However, depending on the size and scope of your particular project, a heavier nap roller may be beneficial. Tip: because the polar bear will pick up paint as the project moves along, it can help the consistency of the finish to load the polar bear with paint and scrape off the excess. To begin, use a roller with a standard cover to apply the pearlescent paint on the surface from floor to ceiling in approximately 2 to 3 linear feet. Spread the paint evenly, but don't spend too much time worrying about lines or lap marks. While the pearlescent paint is still wet, immediately switch to the polar bear and lightly backroll over the surface once or twice. Backrolling the pearlescent paint will leave a more even finish. Be sure to roll just past the edge of each section to make blending easier. To do areas that cannot be reached by roller, cut in using a 2-inch nylon brush and immediately backroll using a smaller roller. Blend out any harsh lines. Depending on the size of the substrate, it may be easier if 2 painters install LiquaPearl. The first painter applies a pearlescent coat with the standard roller cover, and that is immediately backrolled by the second painter using the polar bear roller. Spray application. In order to properly spray LiquaPearl, a few equipment minimums need to be in place. You need a compressor that will output 6.9 standard cubic feet of air a minute at 80 psi. From the compressor to the pressure pot, you'll need a 3/8-inch interdiameter hose. Standard length of this hose is 50 feet. Your pressure pot needs to be a minimum 80 psi and dual regulated with a main shutoff, fluid shutoff, and quick disconnect. From the pressure pot to the gun, you need a 25-foot 5/16-inch air line and a 3/8-inch fluid line. Finally, at the end of the hose, you need a gun. All settings are based on the Binks 2100 or 2001 with external mix air cap, 63 PB or 66 SK air cap, with a 565 needle and a 66 SS fluid nozzle. You can also use the CA Technologies Lynx, also known as the Lynx Multicolor L100C with a 1.8 fluid nozzle. Before adding paint to the system, make sure that the paint pot, lines, and gun have been flushed clean with water. Using a stir stick, stir LiquaPearl and be sure to scrape the bottom to incorporate metallic paint particles that may have settled. Do not use a mechanical drill mixer or shaker. Using a fine mesh painter's strainer bag, strain the material. In the case that the material needs to be thinned, water can be used. But do not add more than 8 ounces. Tighten the lid on the pressure pot. Before attaching airline from the compressor, set the 2 regulators to 0 by turning the adjustment screws counterclockwise. Attach the airline. Open all gun adjustments to full open. Keep the air regulator set to 0. Add pressure to the pot and pull gun trigger until paint flows from the gun. Setting the pressure by holding the gun level and waiting until the stream is approximately 3 to 5 inches before dipping downward. Now we are ready to add airflow to the gun. Turn in the adjustment screw on the air regulator and test the spray pattern on the white scrap material. Add air pressure until the spray pattern is almost fully atomized. You know you are at the correct pressure when there is a slight spitting, and dots a bit smaller than the head of a pin should be seen. If these dots are too big, slowly add air pressure until dots are the correct size. Hold the gun level at 10 to 12 inches from the surface being sprayed. Apply with a 50% overlap and move quickly enough so a damp coat is applied. Do not apply a wet coat or try to create and maintain a wet edge. Allow to dry to the touch and repeat this process. LiquaPearl is meant to be applied in at least 4 light passes and allowed to dry prior to starting the next pass. If specification calls for a pearl protector, set all pressures the same as you did for the LiquaPearl and apply using a slower gun speed. Apply 1 full wet coat. LiquaPearl Spray Repair. Repair damaged area. Sand smooth and prime. Apply primer by spray or roller and softly feather out the outer edges. Do not use a brush. Once primer has dried, refer to LiquaPearl application guide for mixing, setup, and spray application procedure. Apply a quick light pass using a feathering blending spray technique and allow to dry. Repeat this process until area reaches full coverage. LiquaPearl Roll Repair. Once area has been properly prepared, apply LiquaPearl using the same tools and method as mentioned in the application guide. Using a roller, apply LiquaPearl to repaired area and lightly backroll using the second specialty roller. Feather the wet area into surrounding dry area. Do not overwork the touch-up. Allow to dry and apply a second coat. In some cases, a third coat may be needed. LiquaPearl Spray Troubleshooting. Striping. Most common cause is the gun was too close to the surface or the speed of the spray stroke was too slow, which resulted in creating a line that has too much paint applied in that area. To fix, apply a lighter pass. Be sure to maintain the gun tip at approximately 10 to 12 inches from the surface and move quick enough so only a slightly damp coat is applied. Allow to dry and examine the finish. Apply a second and third light coat if needed. Blotchy and/or mottled appearance. The most common cause is that the entire area was applied too heavy, too much material at once. For the fix, apply a much lighter pass. Proper spray technique should leave only a slightly damp coat. Allow to dry and examine the finish. Apply a second or third light coat if needed. Rough and/or gritty. Most common cause is spraying with too high an air pressure. Paint was fully or over-atomized. The paint may have been sprayed from too great a distance, which results in much of the paint to dry before reaching the intended surface. To fix, sand smooth. Typically, 180 grit sandpaper works well, though in some cases, finer paper or a Scotch-Brite will work. After sanding and removing sanding dust, apply a light coat at a lower air-to-paint ratio and from the proper distance. Paint must be applied slightly under-atomized. Please refer back to application instructions for proper settings. Depending on how aggressive the sanding needed to get the surface back to being smooth, will determine how many light passes will be needed. Typically, it takes 2 to 3 passes. Allow to dry between each pass. For more information on any of the MDC finishes, please go to mdcwall.com or call 800-621-4006 extension 4.